our process, but new to Amplify. I'm really excited to bring to you what we have to offer today with our K-5 science. We have the Amplify team with us. We have Kathy McMillan and we have Mr. Tom Gant. Some of you, we used to be together before. The team is back together. So we're really excited to be here with you. One of the things that you're going to see when we're going through this today is the thought and process behind how we're transforming teaching and learning in our science classrooms. With our curriculum kit, and that is what it is a curriculum kit. You're going to find that you have everything in there to teach your classrooms, and everything comes with the adoption. So everything we're talking about today is part of the adoption process for Amplify because it is our curriculum, okay? So you cannot pull it apart. It's the way we teach science in the K-5 classroom because we know that we need to get our students to that deeper level of understanding. So you're going to have in there all of your reading selections that build that background knowledge. You have your investigation notebook that is one per child for the life of the adoption. You have your materials to be able to do your hands-on inquiry lab. You have your big books, you have your word walls. Everything you need is in that kit. So that's what Tom's going to be sharing with you today, and that's what really sets us apart from everything else you've heard today. But is also what we know we need to transform that learning instruction for our students in the classroom. So with that, I'm going to let Tom really get into it for you at a deeper dive and share with you all those pieces and parts. So with that, take it away.
Oh, thanks, Lisa, and thanks for hanging in there. I know it's been a long day for you, and I've been in your shoes. So I'm going to approach this presentation as an educator. I taught science for 15 years, but also as a parent of a child who's in 3rd grade using Amplify Science and has for the last couple of years. So I get to see it work for elementary school students in a way that's really interesting. So I'm going to start. So eyes up, eyes up. Can anybody identify this item that I have put on the screen? Raise your hand if you know what that is. Ladies' hands are going to go a lot faster than men because it is this. Now, why would I show you a toilet seat cover? That toilet seat cover transformed my life. Stick with me here. So I had a science teacher in 3rd grade. I grew up in Missouri in the Ozarks, and his name was Mr. Sparkman, and he made us do investigations with toilet seat covers. We had to see what properties of the materials, what could go through them, and test all these really cool things. And then we did some math, and they made us do the circumference and all that. And I remember that to this day, 40 plus years later. So it's what problem-based learning can do. And because of that, I became an engineer, biomedical engineer, and then an educator for 15 years. So my goal is to talk about how these programs can fit a problem-based learning approach. And like Lisa said, everything is included. So this is just an image of our bins, our curriculum bins. I'm going to jump down here and talk about our stuff. And so we are unit-based. So every unit would come with a material bin, a curriculum kit. And so inside there, you're going to have access to your print and digital teacher guide, hands-on materials. Enough materials for a class size of 36 students and not large groups. We're talking groups of 2 to 4 in size. Inside, you will also have all the literacy components. Everything you see also in print and in digital is available in Espanol, if you have the need for that. And so 5 unique titles written by our authorship team. We're not sourcing books from outside. These are our authors of the Lawrence Hall of Science that created these. And they're used throughout the course of the unit. One of them is a reference book. My son is so used to asking Siri, Alexa, or his teacher the answer. We want them to get in here and learn how to use a reference book by turning to the table of contents and page indication on gravity and exploring that. So literacy is rich in our program. You have enough hands-on resources, again, for 36 students, but you also get the unit questions, chapter questions, vocabulary cards, visual vocabulary cards, everything to create a print-rich environment for students to interact with. K-1 teachers, same text, mega flip books, same titles, so you can sit on the carpet, do that close reading and those strategies as we look to gather evidence from text. And so everything you need is there, one-stop shop to make your life easy. And where did I put my clicker?
Right there. Is that it?
Oh, thank you. My coffee hasn't kicked in. All right. And so everything is in the bin. 5 unique titles, all print resources and hands-on. And then Lisa mentioned the student investigation notebook. These are also available in Spanish and English. This sets the level playing field for all students. I did notebooking when I was teaching. I found out when I had students glue it in and all that stuff, it really rewarded the parents that were organized doing that work. This sets an even playing field. All students will have this graphic organizer, data collection space. If you're in a one-to-one environment, that is live on the screen with digital tools. So you can have both options. We work with some districts that go K1 and 2 with the print and maybe bring in the technology in the upper grade. So we're flexible. You also get those awesome big books. And the reason for these resources is to go through our phenomena-based unit structure. Every unit is going to start by engaging students in a real-world problem and a science and engineering career. In that process, there's a blue feedback loop collecting evidence to build up our knowledge through those different sources until students can actually apply what they learned to other situations. That blue feedback loop is a mouthful. Do, talk, read, write, visualize. Research-based approach proves very effective because you're hitting different learning styles. Do, get materials out of the bin and do your hands-on investigations. But we don't stop there. The new design of the standards requires scientific discourse. So we want students to talk about that investigation. We provide 8 different embedded discourse routines. Some of our K-5 teachers are very familiar with, like think, pair, share strategies. Then they're going to read to get secondhand evidence from the text, write their findings either in the notebook or online with our digital tools, and then visualize with multimedia, simulations, videos, and modeling tools to bring that all together. So why choose Amplify Science for South Carolina? We are phenomena-based. We have some really great technology and resources scaffolded into the program. We're designed to meet the expectations of those new standards. Teacher planning and assessment. I'm going to stop right here for a second. Every lesson has a video of a real teacher teaching that lesson. That is very powerful during the pandemic. It has been very useful. It was sent home by YouTube links for kids to watch and keep up with their lessons. Also, a lot of new teachers are modeling that instruction. And every lesson also has a fully flushed out PowerPoint and Google slide presentation deck. Everything's embedded in there that you need to teach. We want to make it really easy to implement our program. And then finally, that integration of reading and literacy that we're going to cover today. So every unit, students are going to go on a problem-based deep dive. They get to be a STEM scientist or an engineer of some kind as they unlock a real-world phenomenon. So it really talks about that college and career-ready science. I'm going to give you an example from a couple grade levels. So aquarium scientist in grade 1. This is one of our modeling focal units, and they have this little sea turtle named Spruce. Spruce is rehabilitated and going to be released into the ocean. Of course, they're worried. Their sharks are going to eat her. How do animals defend themselves? And so in the process, they're going to get evidence from the text. They're going to do interactive classwork. Our e-readers also have the ability to hit play and read to those students who need that support. And they're going to come up with some really cool investigations. They're going to watch videos. I love this lesson where they actually observe each other eating a carrot. Something that simple shows the adaptations of how animals can eat and protect themselves as well. As we go a little further, this is some images from my son's class where they actually built, and our kids, they're going to get out some materials to build animals, creatures with defense. You'll see defenses. And the comb is the predator trying to eat them. So a lot of them put spikes and shells. Some put camouflage with different colors. So a really interactive experience. I'm not going to jump to grade 3, where students get to be engineers looking at a magnetic levitation train. Really cool modern science. And so we're going to incorporate forces in this unit.
The city of Faraday has arranged for a new train to come to
So this train's coming to the town. People are nervous to ride it because it looks different. It's not connected to the tracks. It's using magnetic levitation. And so they're going to read and interact with our notebooks and get evidence to support their ideas around this train. I'm going to jump to grade 5, one of our engineering units, where students are looking. There's a town that has 2 sides on an island, East and West Ferris. One side completely dry, the other side gets way too much water. What can they engineer to solve that water shortage problem on one side of the island? So they're going to learn all about that system water cycle and all that stuff, but then they're going to get to do and build some really cool things. They're going to engage in the text in different ways as they get that evidence, and we want that hands-on experience. There's some images of some students building devices, condensation collection, and then even going the next step in designing freshwater systems. So much more advanced, obviously, in 5th grade. And the goal is to help teachers also teach engineering. That is something new for a lot of K-5 teachers, and that's what the state really wants. So Amplify has an engineering unit at every grade level. So up here is our scope and sequence. So K1 and 2, there's 3 units. 3, 4, and 5, there are 4 units. Planning is easy. There are 22 lessons per unit. So K1 and 2, that's 66 lessons. 3, 4, 5, that is 88. Every grade level has that little microscope. It's an investigation unit. It pushes investigation skills really heavily. Then we have modeling units that help with the modeling process, and then those engineering units. Kindergartners are pinball machine engineers, trying to figure out forces, and they actually get to build pinball machines. All the way up to our grade 5, or system that you saw, that water shortage engineer. And then grades 3 and 4, that additional unit, that 4th unit, is argumentation. Scientific discourse is developed in a deeper level around those units. So we talk about our unit structure. They're broken down by chapters. It's called UCLA, units, chapters, lessons, and activities. So we're starting with these units, and then they're broken down into chapters, and then we get down to a lesson. Now our lessons are flexible in pacing. Who here has an hour to teach science? Yeah, right? We work with schools that get 12 minutes, all the way to 90, so it's a range. And so our lessons are broken down by activities. Like here we have a reading activity, a hands-on, a writing, and then a discussion. Maybe I can't get through all those in my time, no problem. I do the reading, I hit pause, I pick up the hands-on, and the writing the next day. So totally flexible in the way you implement it. So you can work through activities, not the entire lesson. And we're built for 3-dimensional learning. So there's a lot of programs, 13 that you probably heard today. Some were developed before the standards changed in GSS. Ours was developed after that foundational change. And it's evident in the way we blend it into our program. So we take those disciplinary core ideas, earth, life, physical science, and engineering. We want to bring in those 8 science and engineering practices, and we don't expect teachers to be experts in this. Our experts have developed this to make those cross-cutting concepts blend in as well, anchored around that anchoring phenomenon for every unit. So such as our floating train. Now as we move forward, I'm looking at the standards in the state here with our performance expectations, and they're also color-coded. So planning and investigation about balanced and unbalanced forces. This is grade 3. You're looking at the patterns, predict motion, and I love that there in orange. Electric interactions and magnetic interactions. What better than a floating magnetic levitation train to illustrate that? Now in our teacher guide, we're going to support teachers. There's also problems. There we go. We have a 3-dimensional statement provided at the unit, chapter, and lesson level. So here I can see my phenomena. Students are challenged to explain the floating train, to reassert those nervous citizens. Everything in blue are the practices, and you can see the color coding of the DCIs and cross-cutting concepts. So it's there for a teacher to see. If I'm in a lesson, it's much shorter. Students identify patterns and data based upon their investigations of which objects magnetic forces can act on. So here, I pull out my materials. Students are going to take magnets and test all these objects. Now, as adults, we know it has to be a metal and it has to have iron in it. Students don't know that yet. They're going to uncover that by this investigation tied to that particular lesson. And teachers make those I can statements, which become really powerful for our learners. Assessments, big picture here. We want to make sure we assess our students on these 3 dimensions. We start with a pre-unit assessment with our units. It's that readiness assessment. Now, in a lower grade, it might be a discussion or a town hall. They're not going to be able to write out a full statement, but when they're older in the upper grade levels, we will have those written assessments. Critical junctures. Every chapter, think of it as a major checkpoint. So when that chapter ends, we want to make sure we don't move on until we support those students who might be struggling. So after the critical juncture assessment, teachers are provided a remediation strategy. If there's groups of students that need to be pulled aside and work in a center to review to get them caught up, because we don't want to continue on and lose them. And then we have self-assessments every chapter where students really can expound upon their own learning and share that out. And then about every lesson where our research shows students might have a little sticking point, we have what's called on-the-fly formative assessments. In this particular instance, it gives you the look for, I'll give you the look for in now what notes. I'm looking for this, how are students working with this particular observation collection? They're supposed to make waves with ropes. Maybe it's they're doing the pattern right, but they can't describe it. Maybe they don't have the words to describe it. So that guidance helps that teacher. And the benefit of this, students aren't getting behind daily. They're actually you're addressing their learning right then before that critical juncture shows up. So they'll be more successful on moving forward. K1 teachers, little ones can tell you a lot, as we know, they just can't write it out yet. So we have a clipboard assessment tool where you put their names and you have questions to ask them. and they should be able to respond, and you have that anecdotal evidence. Standard-based benchmarks. So starting in grade 3 in our program, we offer standard-based benchmarks. They're clustered by standards around our unit structure, but they can be flexible. They include visual stimuli, multiple choice questions. You know, we don't know what the state's gonna throw at you yet, but these are developed to prepare students for that. We have performance tasks built in. If I look way over here at the DOK, the depth of knowledge level, our assessments do not include the number 1. That's a memorization idea. We want students to be able to show mastery beyond just memorizing certain key things. I mentioned our classroom slides. I was that teacher that loved to pull it apart and edit it. You can do that. But what's nice, it's already pre-built for you. Images of the text, videos, and in the notes margin, this one has teacher actions, some suggested talk if you don't know what to say to start the lesson, and then the on-the-fly formative assessments embedded right there. In our professional development, we'll review like the best way to present this is in presenter mode. So I see all those notes here. Teachers only see the slide I want them to see. It's also color coded. Orange action items are for students. Black text is for the teacher. And then blue is for groups. So it really becomes an easy way to teach. I mentioned videos. They have great instructional videos. These are taught by real Amplify Science users. We've seen a lot of modification for at-home learning, of course, but also it's a great support for special ed and English language learners. They can hear the lesson from another teacher. Substitute teachers can be very successful. I mean, we've all been dealing with subs across the nation. They can press play. What's nice, that teacher's gonna tell the students, okay, get out your notebook or your digital platform and answer these questions. So it's guiding as well. Videos of the hands-on experiments. If someone's absent in this class, you can have them watch the video at home. Or maybe, I don't know how to set it up myself, I watch it and I can see that model. So a little deeper, we have a video of all the text. So our text comes in print, a digital version for students to flip through and press play. We have a real teacher reading it as well. Super useful because a real teacher has those certain ways of talking through as they teach that literacy component through a scientific text. So when we talk about literacy, you get the print books, student-directed digital experience where they can press play, flip the pages, video read aloud by those guest teachers, and then also it's embedded in the classroom slide deck. So it makes reading support seamless in science. And our reading approach is a gradual release of responsibility. There's 5 unique titles that you're gonna work through, and it starts from teacher-led to then we want that student independence. We don't expect them to be able to read that right out the gate. And so you're gonna start with read alouds, shared reading, and then eventually that partnered reading to independence. What does that look like? So we start with teacher reading. Maybe the first 1 or 2 texts are gonna be teacher read. And also maybe it depends on the kids that you have in front of you. The teacher's gonna model, demonstrate, and do some think alouds. As we get a little further in, maybe the next text are going to be shared reading. Teacher and student working together where the teacher goes through and the students observe and actively join in when they can. And then finally we get to partner reading where students are working together and supporting each other in that process. And then the goal is to get them to be independent readers eventually through science. Now, writing scaffolds into as well. We're going to provide language training, shared writing experiences to really help them also improve their writing around science. We also provide the mini books and emergent writing activities for the grade levels that need that. So we're supporting your literacy as well. Now let's go into some of the technology. We cover all the LMSs. Whatever you got, we got you covered. Everything up there, anything that's not. We'll auto roster you, we'll make sure it's all set up. So the delivery is super simple. We work with Clever, Schoology, Canvas, all those. Now, also the continuum. So if you're one-to-one or a teacher with a projector, we have resources to cover that gamut, so you can have that print blended model if you want. When we talk about release of responsibility with text, we do the same thing with technology. Our K-1 students are going to have access to the digital readers in both English and Spanish. Teachers have all the other multimedia at their fingertips. We don't want to overwhelm the smallest learners with too much technology. Then we bring in grades 2 and 3 practice tools. These are science drag and drops. We also have the readers for them. And then in grades 4 and 5, we had simulations. Practice tools are still there, and the student books in English and Spanish. I'm going to jump over to show you the difference between simulations and practice tools. I had Justin Timberlake ready to play there. All right, so here's my student apps page. And so in this particular unit, I'm going to jump to my waves, energy, and information. Students are trying to figure out how does they're marine scientists, and the mother dolphin is separated from the calf. How do sound waves travel? How do they get back together? And so we have a couple tools here, sound waves and code communicator simulation. I'm gonna do the sound wave sim. Let me turn my volume back on. Let me close that visualization. I'm gonna hit play. So this is a double bass sound. And I see something happening with those particles. That could be air or water. And so the students can turn on the wave to visualize them. Now let's change. Let's view a different sound. Let's go to a flute, something drastically different. So now we can have a discussion. What happened to that? What is that? And what is that called? What's a wavelength? We introduced that word now. And then what's different about those wavelengths? And what did we hear? Students are going to be able to build custom sounds. There's even a xylophone they can play with and manipulate. And then, as they solve that mystery, we end the chapter with a new phenomenon about how humans communicate with code. We had code communicators where they're going to get to build different simple binary code so they can see what they're learning and apply it. Now, a digital sorting tool is something like this, something pretty simple here. Let's say my source was the little dolphin, and my listener was the mama, and the energy's not going that way, it has to be going this way, and the energy transfer is happening there. So students are going to be able to demonstrate their understanding by these same kind of digital modeling tools. They're going to write it out in their notebook, but it's great for them to visualize with this kind of technology. So as we bridge that technology in, I'm going to show you the digital experience if we went into a one-to-one environment. So we'll set you up to assign to whatever LMS. I have Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams on my account. And as we go through, a teacher can hit start class and choose to sync that class's screens with theirs. Whatever's on the teacher's screen will get pushed onto the student device. So as I work through as a teacher, I have my lesson guide. This is what's on the student screen. This slide here, all my notes and everything are on the other side, so I'm supported. I can lock students into that same lesson with me, or I can let them free range as well. Most teachers like for them to be right in sync. Now as I get a little further along, here's my page in the notebook that they have to write out. There's digital tools, colors, crayons, text. On certain pages, you'll see audio where a student can record their voice and take a picture. So maybe they did something great they want to put out and put their picture in. Up there where it says view work, students don't have to hit save in our program. If I hit view work, I see the work coming in real time from all my students. And then the beauty of this, let's say Cortisha here, her work is fabulous. I want to share it out to the rest of my students. I click on that, push it out to their device. And it can be done anonymously because maybe she's embarrassed. So you have the ability to interact very quickly with the student work and see it coming in easily. So it's designed to whatever the teacher wants, print, digital, or a blended learning approach. So I'm now going to go through a 3-step prep that most teachers will go through in our program. We're going to visit a lesson brief, get our materials out, and access our classroom slides. So I'm going to jump over to my teacher login here. And so here's my unit, balancing forces. I can see all my chapters broken down. I'm going to go into lesson 1.2. Lesson 1.1 is that pre-unit assessment. So I'm going to go right into the first instructional lesson. Oh, one thing while I'm here, down in the bottom right, live chat button. Our team in Atlanta is there from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday and 9 to 5 on weekends. If you're working and you need to hit them up, they're going to answer with any question you have. We do not turn that on as student accounts, because you know what? They've asked us random little things. And so as I'm here, most teachers are going to come through and go, you know what? I'm going to get my materials list. So here's my materials out of my material unit. So my unit kit, and so I'm going to pull everything out that I need, get it all organized, and then differentiation brief. Every lesson has a differentiation brief. Students are not the same level in the classroom. I never had that experience for 15 years. And what I'm going to see here is support for my diverse learners, any potential challenges in the lesson. These are all the supports we have every lesson. Strategies for English learners. There's a lot of those, and some of those are good for other students as well. I'll go a little further. Those who need more support with some sentence frames, and then those who need more challenge. I've had honors kids in a class, if I don't give them something to do, they're going to become a nightmare. So this gives you a chance to keep them engaged. So you have all levels, and it varies per lesson, because some lessons are hands-on, some are reading, and so it's customized. Now my third step is to come over here and get my classroom slides in either version that I like, under my digital resources. So I'm going to jump over, and let's start this lesson. And the goal is to shift the instructional focus on the student, where they figure things out, not just hearing it and learning about it. So balancing forces, making objects move. We're going to discuss some initial ideas. Students are going to watch this floating train. how it works around the town. That video is embedded there. And then we're going to introduce the role and jump right in. Okay, students, you're going to do a think, pair, share. Now with this think, pair, share, our question is, what do you think can make that train rise? Well, they're going to come up with great ideas. Oh, Harry Potter did it. Disney World, because it looks like the monorail. And we take all those ideas because we don't want to, discount them yet. We have to find evidence to support your claim that you're making. And we're going to do that. And here's our chapter question that's also on the wall as we look at the first part of this, what makes the train rise. Then we jump into a hands-on activity. There's our icon for hands-on. They're going to watch an video. Now you have a choice here. A lot of teachers can explain what they're going to do in the experiment, or you just press play and our person will explain it. And so I like to explain it sometimes. You're going to move these blocks around. Here's the observation resource we're going to talk about. I tell them you're going to use your senses, except taste. You're not going to taste those blocks. And then we're going to pull these materials out and find ways to make them move. The goal is to collect evidence on forces. Here's my notebook page. There's again examples, show them what they can put in their drawing, and then they work in their group. If I were the digital one-to-one, that would be live on the page. So they're going to record their observations with words and drawings. We don't stop there, we want to share it out, so we build an anchor chart. Object 1 and 2 that we used, and whether it was a push, pull, or not sure. It's okay if you're not sure, we're going to figure that out. We're going to come back to that. Now, the same anchor chart is going to be used in the next lesson, which is literacy driven. So we're getting firsthand evidence from hands-on. Now let's go into this book called Forces All Around. And so here's my instructions. We're going to look for evidence as we read through this. So I pre-read this with my students. These are third graders, and they're going to learn about forces. Now, that word force repeats 5 times on that page. Why do we repeat it? Because it's a new word. They got to hear it again and again. And then we teach them some basic annotations. You're going to put sticky notes anytime you see evidence of a force, either in the image or the text. And they love this page because they see the slide, the skateboard. They're going to put a lot of sticky notes, because then they're going to transfer that into their notebook. And we're going to put the best ones up on that anchor chart with our hands-on evidence to build that knowledge collectively in the classroom. Along the way, kids are going to do some really cool experiments. This one, they take our ring magnets, flip it over, and it actually hovers in the air. Oh, that's how the train works. Then they're going to, hey, Mr. Gant, how do you turn the magnet off? No worries. We have materials in there for a teacher to build an electromagnet, a model, and pick up paper clips. And then, well, how can we get forces that are balanced? Well, we have a floating paperclip challenge. I love this one. Oh, I don't want to show those yet. I want to show you my device. So students get to build this. We have the cups, the tape, everything in our materials here. And so my goal is to get this paperclip to hover in the air. So I take my 2 magnets, flip them off so they stick together. I've got my paperclip on a string. I make sure it's stuck to it, and I gently pull from here. And now my paperclip is floating. I can pass my finger through it. If I want to collect that data, I mark it with a ruler, and I pull to the point where gravity is more powerful than magnetic force, and it falls, and I collect my multiple trials. The other cool thing is they're seeing balanced forces. They can hover in the air. So a magnetic levitation train is possible. Modern, cool features in science. So engineering tasks are built in, and kids come up with some crazy designs that all work. That was just a prototype, but they are being able to demonstrate their understanding in a lot of different ways. And we're hitting those engineering standards head on with these kind of projects. We're supporting all learners by starting your units also with an anchor chart. Tap into what they know. Find out what they know first. And then we're going to add what we learned in our experiences into that. So you're going to be revisiting this and it becomes a focal part of your science wall. And the goal is for all learners to succeed. We start with a very low entry point with our units. You may see our units and think, oh, they're really simple. Well, that's on purpose. We start with progress build 1. The force is a push or pull. Kids are going to push and pull those blocks. Then, level 2, we introduce touching and non-touching forces in gravity, until finally, by the end of the unit, they have balanced forces on an object. So we start simple and scaffold it in, and we try to make sure we're using those assessments to make sure they're moving up that knowledge pyramid. At the end of the unit, we're going to take what they learn and apply it. So we have an application phenomenon at the very end. In this case, the design of a bridge. There's still some engineers showing you can design a bridge. And here's an example of the students' work. In kindergarten, for instance, they build those pinball machines, they figure out some basic forces. They're going to take a walking field trip around campus with their teacher and start spotting things that are being pushed and pulled and how much force is on it. They're taking their learning and extending it. And we also provide those differentiated supports for every lesson that I mentioned all the way across the board, and those different modalities of do, talk, read, write, visualize. That proves very effective. One of our users in Nebraska, Grand Island, they give state tests in Nebraska in grades 4 and 8. In our first year of implementation, they lowered a significant learning gap with their special ed students, their English language learners, and their free reduced lunch meal students. They were from 5.5 to almost 13% in 1 year. So the results are coming in. We have users across the entire United States, and we're very proud of that. Professional development is important. We'll customize it based upon your unique profile of your district, what technology you have. What comes with it is called a GLOW, a GLO, grade level orientation, where teachers all the same grade will get trained separately because you have different, units. But we also recommend our coaches and administrators getting trained as well, so they understand this new way of instructing science in elementary. And parents, we have a caregiver website with a helpline and questions parents can ask their kids through different units. Sometimes I pick up my son Lucas and I'm like, hey, what you learn at school today? Science. Well, I don't know. I open that document up and I'm like, you should learn this, this, and this. Let's talk about it. Yeah. So your parents are supported. They also have a help number and email address as well. Just the same different team, but they're basically in the same hours to help that implementation. And you can transform classrooms. I worked with one of our learning specialists over there, Nanette, in Louisiana, Bossier Schools, adopted this curriculum. We trained about 100 teachers. They weren't happy to see us because they were getting a new literacy program, and science was on the back burner. 2 weeks later, after our training, transformed. Their classrooms were looking amazing, super creative, use of our materials, growing plants, building those creatures from the predators, interacting with our notebooks. And one kindergarten teacher, she was so scared because she was in her first year. I remember her in the training. When I went to her classroom to talk to her, she goes, oh my gosh, Mr. Gant, this is amazing. This is so easy to implement. So easy, a drunk monkey could do it. And you're the kind of crowd that I can say that in front of. And so I'm going to stop there and turn it over to Lisa.
That's awesome. Thank you, Tom. I told you we saved best for last. You did great. Thank you. So, like I had shared with you, that's what we're so excited about. And you saw, this is the #1 program used across the country, and this is why. Because of the thought behind it and that depth of knowledge that we're getting our students to. So, want to share with you again what you're getting. You get your curriculum bin, and in your curriculum bin is everything you need for each one of those units. So when you're done, you're able to pack up that curriculum bin, put it away, bring out your next unit, and move forward with that. So very easy to use. You all got an orange folder when you got here. If you open it up, inside is our contact information. You can contact either myself, Lisa Giravati, or Kathy McMillan. So anything you need, let us know. And you'll also see that there's some additional information in here because I know that your task going back is to share with everyone back in your buildings what you've seen. So you're gonna see just some information around our assessments. This is our username, login. Check out those classroom slides and everything that's online. It's pretty amazing. And then it talks again about what you get. But one more thing I want to talk about, and this has been my struggle for years in doing adoptions in South Carolina. As much as it's important to me that I make teaching easier for our teachers and give them what they need, it does not matter how easy I make it for you if it doesn't work for our students. And at the end of the day, they're really our customers. So what we are going to do starting next week is we take a grade level per day and we're going to do a 30-minute lesson. We're asking our teachers to log in with your students and have them interact with that lesson and then let them give you feedback on what they were able to learn. Did they meet that objective of that lesson? So I've sent out those invitations already to your buildings. I was able to get, some of you were able to sign in when you were here, so I'll send them out again so that you have it. But you also have my contact information, so if you'd like to get that so that you can send it out to your teachers and have them register, please have them do that because I think that's really very important. So again, starting next week, we have a morning session and an afternoon, so hopefully you'll be able to get it switched in one of those blocks. If you teach a morning and an afternoon, sign up for both. We're totally fine with that. Have both your classes come. And we'll be having Mr. Gant is going to be our teacher for those.
Well, it's my alter ego, Electron Tom. I will be there.
Perfect. So thank you so much. You're welcome to come up to the screen too and use this code and save that information. But thank you for staying today. I know we just kept taking a little longer. I really, really appreciate y'all. Be safe riding home. All right. Thank y'all.